This is a Flying Cow production.
Book 1, Water. Book 2, Earth. Book 3, Fire. Long ago, Nickelodeon introduced a series called Avatar: The Last Airbender. It combined great anime-style animation, strong storytelling, heart, and humor. It was great, and everyone that saw it loved it. Until one day, a terrible movie came out which everyone hated. But my co-host Loren Collins knows none of this because he's never seen the show. And that's why we are watching every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because I believe this could be Loren's new favorite show. Or at least top 20. Well, hello and welcome back. Avatar Review Podcast here on the Flying Cow. My name is Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself, and Master Paku's an asshole.
My name's Amanda Van Heil, and Master Paku and I would not get along. I'm glad he's not my teacher.
And I'm Loren Collins, and I wouldn't mind visiting an ice city, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah. Would not want to live there. Yeah. For like half a second, I was like, okay, because that made me think of the I Don't Want to Live on the Moon song from
I love that song so much.
Sesame Street. And I was like, is there any way I can like come up with alternate? And I'm like, no, I am not a songwriter. Oh, I don't want to live in an ice castle.
No.
No.
Well, I'm going to assume Joe Raposo wrote that. I don't know that for certain, but yeah, one of his lost lyrics. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One of the lovely little covers of that song, by the way, if you search elsewhere here on YouTube, is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's cover of "I Don't Want to Live on the Moon."
Oh, interesting.
Which was there's the sad backstory to it. It was a favorite song of his brother, who he lost.
Oh, yeah.
And so the cover he sings is sort of acoustic and really sort of slow and melancholy. It's really nice.
Well, I mean, even the original version is kind of slow and melancholy.
Oh, it is.
So
it is.
Yeah.
It's bubbling now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great little, song. I mean, I have always said that the Muppets songs in general are kind of underrated. Like, I don't know why more people don't cover them. Like, one of my all-time favorite Muppet songs, and honestly, one of my favorite songs, full stop, is I'm Going to Go Back There for Someday from the Muppet movie.
I thought you might say that one. That one's excellent and underrated.
I love that song. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Rainbow Connection is great. I think it is a great song. And that's the one that gets all the attention, understandably. Mm-hmm. But I'm Going to Go Back There someday is such a deep, honestly kind of sad and tragic song but also with underlying hope in it. It's such a deep song. I'm just like, wow, guys.
One of the few Muppet songs that got repeated in a different movie, first of all, because it got reused in Muppets from Space.
Did it?
It did, yes.
I haven't seen that forever.
I mean, I watched it a couple of years ago, for the movie battles, but I don't remember them.
Okay, but I'd have to check. It's either
because I don't think.
Let me correct myself. It may be in the movie. It may just be on the soundtrack because
I was about to say that I could believe. I don't think it's in the movie.
Is it like in the end credits? Maybe.
Maybe. I think they had planned to put it in there, and maybe they didn't cut it.
I mean, it would have made sense.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
And honestly, I probably would have liked that movie more if it had been in there.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a huge fan of that movie.
Yeah.
But
I didn't want to live on the moon. Actually, the last couple of years, I'd gotten my brother and my sister to separately record vocals, and I edited them together for my mom. And the last one of those songs we did for her was "I Don't Want to Live on the Moon."
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I think we've talked about nonsense long enough. We are, of course, here talking about the show Avatar: The Last Airbender. We are down to the last few episodes. According to some streaming services, it is 3. We're only going to do 2 more because the last 2-parter we're going to do as one big episode. But this episode, even though it's actually very closely tied to because it's where they arrive in the Northern Water Tribe, it's still not technically part of it's not a 3-parter. It's still just a
This is just it sets the
this.
stage.
Exactly. This is a stage setting episode. Doesn't end on a cliffhanger or anything like that. It's just kind of in tone.
Too bad Master Paku's not hanging on a cliff at the end.
Oh. Ooh. Yeah, we're gonna talk all about that, but we're gonna go ahead and we are going to get into this episode.
Hey, real quick before we do that,
Okay.
because complete non sequitur later. I was correct. The Dave Goals re-recorded. I'm going to go back there someday for Muppets from Space, but it's just on
just on the soundtrack.
But it is a new recording. Yeah,
right. I mean, honestly, I'd be interested to hear that because the voice he uses for Gonzo now is way different than the one that he used in the Muppet movie.
Oh, true. But at this point, Muppets from Space was closer to the Muppet movie than we are to Muppets from Space right now. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Gonzo was at the Game Awards, and I was just like, you don't sound like the Gonzo I know.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, he used a lot of vocal fry, and it was whereas now it's a lot more just like a regular speaking voice kind of thing.
And it just didn't sound like Gonzo.
Sure.
Yeah, last I heard him was in that Haunted Mansion special, and he sounded different.
Yeah.
But now,
well, I mean, he's also the longest lasting of the original
true.
Muppet cat. Mm-hmm. He's the only one that hasn't either passed or retired.
Yep.
So
yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, yes. Now let us go ahead and let us get into this episode. It is The Waterbending Master, and it was directed by Giancarlo Volpe, and written by Michael Dante DiMartino. That's one of the creators. Yeah. So not both of the creators this time, just one of them wrote this episode. But like I said, it makes sense because this is an important one that kind of sets up the finale, not the finale itself, but it does set up the finale. And gives Aang, what it promises in the title, what they have been looking for really this entire time, a water bending master. But of course, there are some wrinkles in there. But just to start off the episode, in the beginning of the episode, we see, some water and, some creatures swimming in the water.
There's water at the Water Tribe.
Yeah. I mean, an episode called The Waterbending Master, the first image you see is water. Who'd have thunk it? But we also see that Appa is kind of sagging a little bit. And, Sokka starts giving him a hard time. And of course, Aang defends him. And I'm like, you know what, Sokka, I'm on Aang's side here. I mean, you are not a giant flying animal that has to carry things on your back and fly all the time. Although Sokka does offer to share the load, but he can't fly. Though Momo seems willing to be his first passenger. I thought that was a fun little moment.
Something we seem to learn in these opening minutes, which I'm guessing may never come back again. It seems to suggest that it takes more energy for Appa to fly high up in the air than like low to the ground.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of like it's not necessarily that it takes more energy, but it's kind of like if you ever had a long day and you kind of just feel yourself drooping.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that kind of thing. Like, you can correct yourself if you notice it, but I think it's just kind of like that kind of.
He's a bit
And it
tired.
doesn't help that
It's not like he
crazy cold,
can't.
too.
He's just he's in like a okay. I need a rest stop, guys. Need to pull up.
That's what I mean in terms of more energy. He's a little worn out. He's got to fly low. If he had little, if he had a Snickers, he could fly, way high.
Yeah. But I will say it doesn't take long before they are actually they know that they are at the North Pole, but they can't seem to find the actual water tribe, which is a point that I will want to bring up later. Just because in the next episode, the Fire Nation seems to have no problem locating the water tribe, but they seem to have been circling this area for hours. Thankfully, the waterbenders kind of it seems like they kind of ambushed them, but at no point are they ever like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" It's more just like, "Oh, hey, it's you guys. Come on, let's go." But yeah, they meet them and kind of take them into the Northern Water Tribe. I will say I started abbreviating Northern Water Tribe in my notes as NWT, and then I just started saying the Newt, which honestly doesn't make sense, but just something that I noticed. Anyway,
for all the talk of the water tribe, that it's like we don't come across like a tribe, we come across like a full-fledged developed city.
Well, I think just the people themselves are called the Water Tribe.
Yeah.
And there are northern and southern versions.
True.
Obviously, the southern version does resemble more of a tribe. There's reasons for that, which we will explore later. But yeah, as you mentioned,
I suppose we did establish this in the last episode. The names don't matter because the air nomads don't move around either. Like they all have castles. So
yeah. But I think a lot of it also depends on how they started.
Sure.
Probably starting out, they were probably desperate tribes that just kind of came together to form two larger ones.
And that tracks if they're going to live at the poles, you have smaller communities, and over time they realize they can build this sort of metropolis.
Yeah.
And what about metropolis?
Is that the plural of metropolis?
No, it's the icy version of the metropolis.
Metropolis. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
There's a hyphen in there. You see,
I didn't see. I do now.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you mentioned, it is quite a metropolis. When you compare this to the Southern Water Tribe,
that's almost Omashu.
I mean, it is kind of like an ice version of
icy Omashu.
I will say, once we get into the city, it's full of a lot of canals, and I wrote down, it's very Venetian. It's there's a lot of canals, and that's where a lot of their travel comes from, is from these canals.
What they can take from Omashu is the slides, because the ice slides would work so much smoother than whatever.
Yeah, they wouldn't necessarily have to use so much bending. Mm-hmm. It would just gravity would do a lot of work for them. But yeah, so like I said, this huge city, and we see that they have technology which is mostly run by bending. But, we see that they have, aqueducts and levees and all sorts of, water-powered, technology going on here. And this is a really impressive city, to which I'm just like, man, that poor Southern tribe, man, Like, do you guys just not care about them at all? Have you just not visited in a while? Like, what's going on?
This is the importance of trade. Is really this is the importance of trade. And
they're all just like, oh, we're way better than those Southern tribe people. We're gonna stay up here in civilization.
Right.
Shared economy, immigration, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I will say there is something to be said of the fact that there is a war going on. So they probably, I mean, I believe in the first episode, Katara mentions that they just haven't heard from their sister tribe in a long time. And probably a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are in a war. You know, as we see, they are one of the last standing larger threats against the Fire Nation. So they probably are just worrying about themselves. Of course, you know, if they would build up the Southern tribe, then they wouldn't be so lonely. But
there's no suggestion in these episodes, is there, that the all the Southern tribe guys who left to go fight the Fire Nation ever made it up to the Northern tribe, did they?
No, I mean, as it's kind of insinuated in Bato, it seems more like they are interested in skirmishes around the Earth Kingdom.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, they're engaging the enemy.
Yeah. But it's just like that would possibly have been a strategy, is to go like,
sure,
go connect,
recruit and ask for help. Yeah, but I mean, as I mentioned, you know, Katara mentions in the first episode that they haven't heard from the Northern Water Tribe in a while. Yeah. It might just be that they either are so used to being separate that they just didn't think about it, or there's a possibility that these two tribes have just kind of, you know, the Northern tribe thinks of themselves as better, and the Southern tribe thinks of their Northern tribe as well. They think of themselves as better, so we don't need them, kind of thing.
Yeah, they do.
You know, there's some possible animosity there.
They do seem to be pretty untouched by the war, because it comes up in the next episode that like the uniforms they've captured are from 85 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that there might have been, you know, an early siege on them, and they were just unsuccessful, so they just haven't gone back.
Yep.
But yeah. But yeah, so, you know, we keep dipping into the next episode. But to focus on this one, we are introduced to this huge city. It's a really impressive city. If you guys haven't seen the episode, I really encourage you to watch the episode, because, you know, this city is just really cool. It's got like a huge kind of wall in front of it, you know, showing the Water Tribe emblem, and then there's that really impressive city that I showed the pic from behind it. You know, just some really cool stuff, and we're also being slowly introduced to kind of some people within the city. We do at some point meet the leader of the tribe, although did you guys catch, was he ever given a name? I think he's only ever referred to as the chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't remember his name.
Given a name. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think he is given a name, but we do meet some people that are given names in this episode. We are you know, first off, you know, as they're walking through the city, one of the first characters that Sokka clocks is Princess Yue, who as you can tell, does not look like most Water Tribe people. She has white hair. And, I mean, she does have the bright blue eyes like many other members of the Water Tribe. I will say, I don't think eye color is something we've really discussed much in this. But if you pay attention, you can clock that a lot of the people of the various tribes can be identified. Even people who are non-benders can be identified by the colors of their eyes. Water Tribe is blue. You know, obviously Fire Nation is red, or like an amber-ish color, and Earth Kingdom are green for the most part. And then Aang, I believe, has like a grayish tone to his eyes. But yeah, I mean, but she kind of stands out, and obviously she's also the princess. I will say in this first clip, Sokka just sees Yue, going down the canals as we mentioned. But in the next bit, she is just seated next to him at a giant feast. And I'm just like, who did Sokka bribe to get sat next to the princess of the water tribe? I mean, you would assume that maybe she would be sat, if she was going to be sat next to one of them, it would have been Aang or Katara. But no, Sokka lucks out and gets to sit next to Yue.
Maybe Yue spotted Sokka also and was like, hey, put that cute boy next to me.
Yeah, I mean, because, there's an obvious flirtation happening with these two immediately. And, Sokka tries, but as we have seen, Sokka doesn't have the most experience. So he's not the smoothest.
So it looks like I'm going to be in town for a while. I'm thinking maybe we could do an activity together?
Do an activity? Very smooth.
Let me tell
Let's
you,
do
nothing
an
is going to pick up a lady quite like being asked to do an activity together.
Yes. You want to do an activity? You,
I'm going
me,
to ask Dan later. Be like, hey, honey, let's go do an activity together.
I love that she repeats it, like, do an activity. Like, that's the weirdest pickup line I've ever heard before, kind of thing. But it's also kind of playful. You can tell kind of through the way that they banter that obviously Sokka is awkward, and if Yue wasn't already kind of into him, he wouldn't have a chance. But obviously there is kind of a mutual thing going on here. But I mean, obviously that is not the only thing happening at this time, because the main reason that they are in the Northern Water Tribe is because Aang needs to learn waterbending. And they came all this way so that both he and Katara could learn waterbending. And so he is introduced to his new waterbending master, Master Pakku. And I will say it was impossible to get a pic of this man, at least in this episode, without at least some sort of sneer on his face. Because I mean, and that kind of sets the tone for who Master Pakku is, at least in this episode, because he, even in this first scene, sets himself off as very no nonsense. He is not impressed by Aang being the Avatar. You can tell, and I will say, I think it's probably better that Aang have a master that's not intimidated by the fact that he's the Avatar. But Master Pakku is particularly uptight. Yeah.
Master Pakku is just an asshole.
He's got his own brand of stick up his ass.
Yes.
His own personalized brand of stick.
And he is proud of that stick.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, he is. Yes,
no,
very, very proud of the stick.
I like the conflict that it creates where he is, willing to train Aang, has no hesitation about doing that. But you're right. He's not intimidated by the fact that, like, this kid is the savior or whatever of this world. Right. It's like, no, he's still going to treat him the same as everybody else.
Yeah. And generally, I think that that's a good tack for him to follow. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a little more of, your sort of sitcom-y manufactured controversy where it's like, also, we don't teach girls around here, which gets solved by the end of the episode.
Well, I mean, I will say, I mean, you say it's sitcom-y, and yes, I mean, I'm not gonna say that this isn't a trip, but it's also just kind of real life.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of fits with kind of the setup, and because here's the thing, like you're right, in like the very next scene, well, actually in the first scene, Aang is like, great, me and my friend really want to train. And of course, I think Paku must just assume that he's talking about Sokka, not knowing that Sokka's not a waterbender.
Yep.
But he's just like, yeah, whatever. You guys, don't be late kind of thing. Well, then the moment he shows up with Katara, he's just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to teach her because she doesn't have dangly bits.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's so dumb.
I do give him credit for setting this up properly in just the last couple of episodes, which is that, like, because for a moment I thought, like, oh, they just ignore all the female waterbenders, which is dumb. But no, that it very quickly establishes, no, they do have a role for them. They've just sort of sex segregated. The male waterbenders become fighters. The female waterbenders become healers. That's just the way they do it.
And it's not that, the healing isn't an important job, because it is.
Oh, no,
it's
absolutely
like,
not.
What if you don't want to be one?
Hugely important. And like I said, it was just in the last episode or two that we first established she had those powers.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, she probably could use some training in that too. But the fact that, like, they just put the women in that category makes more sense than just like, we just are going to ignore your talents.
Right. Anytime you have gendered roles, anytime you have roles based simply on what your genitals look like, it's messed up, because it's taking no account into your actual talent. Because here's the thing, in the episode, in the Deserter, the episode where healing was kind of introduced, Zhang mentioned that it was kind of a rare gift. So what happens if there's a female waterbender who doesn't have the gift of healing?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is she supposed to do? She's just supposed to sit
the ice machine.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, that's messed up. And also, healing is a useful skill. The guys aren't allowed to.
Yeah.
That's something I wonder. Like, I mean, if they're out at war, wouldn't it be helpful for them to know some healing arts?
I feel like you desperately want that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's
like, to some extent, as the Fire Nation, demonstrates, it's like you can substitute for, like, superpowers with machinery and, like, weapons of war. If like, magic healing powers are hard to substitute with something else.
Yeah. But, it's archaic thinking. And when you really, like, think about it practically, it's also just stupid. Because, as we mentioned, they're just going to bring when they go to battle, are they just going to bring around one token woman? Why don't the guys also learn healing? Why aren't the women being trained so that they can at least defend themselves, if they're attacked?
Yeah, if the men are going into battle, it would be very helpful if they do, like, battlefield medicine.
Right. I mean, if you're, I mean, it's still messed up, but if you still want to keep her around your patriarchy, whatever, the stupid sexist term, if you want to stick to that, train them, but just say they're not allowed in combat.
Yeah.
At the very least, equip them to defend themselves. But no, Paku says, not only will I not train her, but it is forbidden in our tribe for women to learn waterbending, which is some backwards shit. Just really messed up.
Given how quickly that gets reversed, it feels like he's perhaps exaggerating a bit with him. It's basically custom.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but their custom is that it's forbidden.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I will say, we'll get to the end. But yeah, it's a little easy.
I do think it's funny that the the metropolitan big city area is the one that has all of
the progressive, like advanced one. Yeah, they're the ones
it's the one that has all of like the backward stuff.
Of course, also in the Southern Tribe, number one, they don't have waterbenders, so that's not a separation they're going to make. But also, there's so few of them. I mean, I will say, obviously, they keep referring to the people that went with Katara's dad as men, so it does sound like only the men went to battle, so that there is kind of a sexist separation there. But in the tribe itself, as it exists now, basically anybody that can do stuff does stuff because they don't have a whole lot of choice.
No one's getting training in anything in those Southern Water tribes.
Yeah.
So it's
but honestly, that might make it easier for them to. They might have also had that type of misogyny, but I think that those walls might fall. I mean, obviously, we saw. That's how Sokka started off. So it seems to me like that's just kind of the basis of the Water Tribe, is this very patriarchal society. I think I said it right that time, or at least close. This, society that's kind of ruled and run by men. Obviously, Sokka shed that, but it took him a little bit. And, like I said, we'll get to it, but I think that they show the Northern Water Tribe progressing a lot farther and quicker than any actual civilization probably would, but it's a cartoon. We'll get to that. But yeah, so, Paku refuses to train Katara and says, you can go learn healing with the women. Ooh. And so, to her credit, Katara is like, well, you know what? I'm here. I might as well learn something. Plus, as you mentioned, this is a new ability. Learning from, I think the woman's name is Pagoda or Hagoda or Yagoda, something like that. It's not Pagoda. I know that because that's like the name of a house or something.
Exactly. By the way, the chief's name is Arnuk.
Arnuk. Okay. Was it mentioned in the episode, or did you just find that in?
It's in a wiki. I don't know where.
Sure. Okay. Chief Arnuk. That's good to know, because I don't. If they mention it, it is once and it's quick.
Yes, and her name is Yagoda with a Y.
Yagoda. Okay. Yeah. So she goes to get her lesson, and I will say it's just another bit of kind of insult to Katara, because when she walks in there, all of Yagoda's other students are all little girls. So it's just like, not only is this only for women, but it's like the little girls class. It's just like, man, it's messed up. But because I mean, well, I'm sure that there are things that come up. I don't know that there's a whole lot of nuances to water healing. It's just kind of how to do it kind of thing. Once you kind of learn like the pressure points and all that. I will say I did like the dummy that they were using, how it showed like the flow of the body kind of thing. But I guess once you learn that, I mean, every once in a while you might want to go like, up your license or something like that. But I don't know that there's like a whole lot of constant training.
I mean, water healing certificate, like CPR training.
Yeah, the dummy does seem to suggest this is operating on sort of an Eastern chi type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Manipulating. Yeah. But I do at the same time, if you want to assume that it's more than just as someone's laying your hands on, that like healing a burn would be different than healing like a cut.
Sure. But that's like a first aid course, which I've done first aid and CPR training. At most, that's like 3 days.
But I don't know. Just assume different kind of injuries to treat, different severities. A third degree burn different than a first. I don't know, but
yeah. But yeah, so anyway, she's in this class, and at the end of the class, she does go and thank Yagoda for the lesson. And it's at that point that Yagoda notices her necklace. It's a good thing that she got it back in time for this episode, because the necklace, we find out, is actually very important, because this necklace, as Yagoda asks, she's like, "Oh, who's the lucky boy?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "That's a betrothal necklace, aren't you?" She's like, "No, I got this from my mother, who got it from my grandmother." And as she looks at it closer, she's like, "I don't know why I didn't recognize this before. That is Kana's," which, I mean, it's a good thing that Katara reacts as quickly as she does. Otherwise, we'd just be sitting there going, "Who's Kana?" But like I said, Katara reacts pretty quickly. She's like, "How do you know my Gran-Gran's name?" So we know Gran-Gran's name. It's Kana. And come to find out, Gran-Gran, Kana, grew up in the Northern Water Tribe, and was betrothed to a boy. They don't say who at this point, but was betrothed to someone, and then disappeared and ran off to the Southern Water Tribe, and obviously, started a family and had her own life and all that kind of good stuff. But obviously Katara didn't even know she was from the Northern Water Tribe, which means that Gran-Gran never talked about it, which means that it's probably not a happy story.
She didn't like the Northern Water Tribe.
yeah. And I mean, we've already seen some reasons as to why she might not have liked the Northern Water Tribe. I mean, she's betrothed for one, and who knows how she feels about the guy. I will say, we will eventually find out towards the end of the episode that the person that she was betrothed to was Paku.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys assume that right away? Did you think that it didn't matter? Did you have any sort of thoughts as to who she might have been betrothed to?
The idea of it being Paku never crossed my mind. Probably just because it's like, who would want to be with Paku? Well, clearly not Gran-Gran.
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't give it an awful lot of thought. I probably thought like that's they're going to introduce this plot point to revisit it. But if anything, I think in the moment I might have guessed that it was the chief. The twist.
I mean, but the chief, I don't think is anywhere near Gran-Gran's age.
But probably not. No, I think I mainly thought of that because I thought it would be just creates the awkward situation for Sokka to realize he's been hitting out his cousin.
Okay, yeah, that's funny. Yeah. But yeah, so we kind of are introduced to this new wrinkle that they actually have familial ties to the Northern Water Tribe. It does kind of make you wonder if maybe they still have family left up there. Obviously, they never that's never brought up. But one would assume, unless she was an only child, that and that all of her parents and relatives were also only children and have all died out, that they very well might have, at the very least cousins or, uncles or something still living up there. But
yeah, I mean, well, if assuming it was just Gran-Gran that came in, I think we can assume that, and she met her husband in the South.
Yes.
Then the closest relatives they could have up there would be like second cousins, and that's assuming that Gran-Gran had any siblings. If she was an only child, and I think that's not an unfair assumption, then we're talking like the closest relatives they have would be third cousins.
Well, I mean, it still could have been like great uncles and great aunts. things like that.
Okay, you're right. They could
like if Gran-Gran had siblings,
if she had siblings, and I think it's
still living,
like her the generation above her is not still hanging around.
Right.
So if she had siblings, there might be someone. But again, she left the northern tribe to go all the way to the south.
Right.
She had
and
siblings,
that's their grandmother. Right.
And that's the grandmother. Yeah. If Gran-Gran does that trip, I think it's fair to assume like she left because she doesn't have family keeping her there, and presumably none of her family accompanied her to the south.
Sure.
Like, otherwise that's a big trip for her to make with
on her own. Yeah. I mean, it does make it sound like, she just like they never say this, but it almost sounds like she just disappeared in the middle of the night. Yeah. Like, she ran away kind of thing.
I'd run away too if I were engaged to Master Paku.
Was he Master Paku at the time, though?
He thought he was.
I mean, yeah, that tracks. I mean, at that age, because you would imagine, because they mention when she's introduced, or at least when her name is introduced, the first thing that they say about Princess Yue is that she's 16, which means she's marrying age.
Yeah, they go out of their way to say that.
Yeah. So one would imagine that the oldest she could have been would have been 16.
Yeah.
Because I imagine if she had been there much longer, they would have just married them.
Got married.
So I mean, because there is a betrothal in the works, I would assume that she probably left her parents there too, because they would have been the ones to set up the arranged marriage. Yeah. I mean, she might have taken like a friend with her, but I don't think she took any family.
It's just a girls' trip. It's like a Thelma and Louise all the way to the South Pole.
Yeah. I mean, I will say if she did take a friend, I want to know about that woman. And get that woman's story, and is she still living, or did she join some swamp people somewhere along the way?
What you want is the prequel story of Gran-Gran's adventure.
Yes.
I want Gran-Gran's adventure. Yes.
Gran-Gran's great adventure.
Yeah. She's a 16-year-old girl heading out on the road.
Yeah.
Journeying to the South Pole.
Yeah.
Just her and her best friend. Seeing the sights. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so, like I said, once we establish that new wrinkle, obviously,
also, by the way, Gran-Gran had to have met the King of Omashu at some point. He's the one really older dude who's run into so far. It's just like,
well, I mean, and if they did, I would imagine that they had a brief romance.
Yes, by all means. That's the point of that. That
Boomy
chapter.
and Kana, I ship it. I ship it totally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact,
Gran-Gran would have been a fun girl.
Who's to say that that's not actually Katara's biological great-grandfather or grandfather?
That's right. Okay, yeah, we don't know. For all we know,
maybe that's where the bending power came from, and he's got the earth bending. Well, she can't just. I mean, how else does she get that massive like water power bending?
Yeah.
Genetics from Gran-Gran and the bending ability from
the King of Omashu. That's right. She has
from Boomy. Yeah.
Gran-Gran has a one-night fling with Boomy on her way south. Mm-hmm. She gets to the south, realizes she's pregnant. She doesn't tell anyone out there that she's pregnant with the King of Omashu.
She probably does get married, because it's a very backward society still. Yeah.
Her husband treats the kid as his own, no problem. And
I mean, she probably convinces him that it is his own. Let's just be honest.
Well,
yeah.
Gran-Gran got around.
Yeah. But yeah. So, like I said, during all of this, Sokka is also kind of having his own situation with Yue, because and they continue having a bit of flirtation to the point where Sokka is walking along her boat in the canal, and after they set a time to go do an activity, Sokka walks off, the sidewalk into the water, because he's not paying attention. But they do eventually meet up on the bridge, and it's like, oh, this is great. They're gonna go out on a date, but Yue immediately is just like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I've got to go, and she runs off. And Sokka's just like, what? Huh? Very confused.
Poor Sokka.
Yeah. And so he comes in upset, and then Aang and Katara come in upset. Everybody is dealing with their own frustrations. Obviously, Sokka with the whole Yue situation, and Aang and Katara are both frustrated about, the situation with Master Pakku. Then Katara actually comes up with an idea.
Why didn't I think of that? At night, you can teach me whatever moves you learn from Master Pakku. That way, you have someone to practice with, and I get to learn waterbending. Everyone's happy.
I'm not happy.
But you're never happy. Come on, Aang.
Yeah. Sokka is left unhappy, and I will say I misspoke. I forgot. It was actually Sokka's suggestion, and then Katara decided to run with it.
Yeah.
But
he had a good idea. He had a good idea, and then Katara had a bad idea of like, yes, let's practice ourselves out
in public.
Yes.
It's like, guys, go get a jar of water, bring it back into your tent.
Yeah.
Because you're waterbenders, if you spill it on stuff, you can just soak it out of the thing.
Also, like if you spill it on stuff, you're doing it wrong. That's how waterbending works.
But yeah, so you're right. They go out into the wide open where anyone can see them. And, Aang really just starts showing her one move, and she already seems to be getting the hang of it, but immediately the water flies out of her hand, and they realize, Katara didn't do that. They look up above them, and just walking on a bridge is Master Pakku, who is insulted that Aang would teach a woman using his teachings. And Pakku basically refuses to teach Aang anymore, which honestly, aside from it just being, an outdated sexist, custom to not teach women, him refusing to teach Aang waterbending, the Avatar, is actually putting everyone at risk. So not only is Pakku a sexist asshole, but he's a selfish sexist asshole because he decides that his pride and his customs are more important than teaching the guy who could save the world how to potentially save the world.
Pakku's like, I bet I can save the world better than the Avatar.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, so, they come into the very next scene. Aang is apologetic really just to kind of, try to smooth things over. But Aang and Katara, neither one of them think that they were wrong. It's just that, they recognize that in order to get Aang the training that they need to, say some things that they don't necessarily believe. But, Pakku's not buying it. And even the chief is like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to basically force Pakku to take Aang back as a student? And they're like, yeah. Because again, Aang learning waterbending is kind of important, So they're like, yeah, maybe you should. But the chief, and honestly, when Pakku initially makes his statement of saying that it is forbidden, it kind of feels like, no, dude, I feel like this is just you standing up for like old customs. But the chief kind of lets out the fact that, no, this is the way that we all feel. He's just kind of symptomatic of this type of thinking, because what the chief says is that, well, maybe if you would swallow your pride and apologize, that Master Paku would consider taking Aang back. And I'm just like, this is not about her swallowing her pride. This is about you guys getting beyond your backward sexist beliefs and just letting people who want to learn and have the ability to learn. You know, that's really all it is. But no, he puts it on Katara. And, you know, Katara is, and I will say, you know, just from my own, like, I kind of understand this because, you know, I work in schools and, you know, with an after school program, and occasionally most of the people that we work with are great. But occasionally you will have a situation with, you know, somebody that is just, you know, that you need to work with, that for some reason is just not in a helpful mood, that even though you know you've done nothing wrong, you have to apologize in order to keep things civil, because they're not going to admit they're wrong, even though they probably are.
It's like customer service in a nutshell.
Yes.
Just say you're sorry. I'm not sorry, though. Just say it.
But for a second, I will say, for Aang's sake, Katara is willing to make this concession, but eventually it just goes a step too far.
Fine.
I'm waiting, little girl.
No. No way am I apologizing to a sour old man like you! Katara? I'll be outside if you're man enough to fight me.
I'm sure she didn't mean that.
Yeah, I think she did.
And she should. Because, I mean, as you said, she's not sorry, and she shouldn't be, because she's not the one in the wrong here. The one in the wrong here is this backward society and the people that are clinging on to this backwards idea of, just because you don't have dangly bits, you aren't worthy of learning a particular skill. And that's just stupid.
I did appreciate when we got outside that, and when Katara insists on fighting
yes,
Paku, that they gave him specifically the line of saying, like, I'm not going to hurt you, because you run the risk in that sort of scene of Paku just really crossing a line of just looking as too much of an a-hole if he's trying to hurt a little girl. But it's just like, no,
right.
if you establish he's playing defense here, he's going to, like, do whatever he can, but he's not going to lay a hand on her. Like, he's just trying to teach her a lesson. Then, like, you
right.
continue to establish him as a pompous jerk,
right,
but not someone,
but not a murderer.
Yeah,
and it leaves some room for some redemption for
yes,
Paku.
exactly.
Yeah, because if he just set out to, you know, make, you know, I do think that in a certain way he does want to make a fool of her, but he doesn't want to hurt her.
Oh no, exactly. He's fine with making a fool of her. That's fine. But as on the nose as it is, I kind of appreciate them actually scripting that line just to establish that we're just not watching him fail at hurting her. Like, he actually is trying not to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so, you know, eventually, you know, I will say, you know, obviously Katara challenges Paku, and Paku does eventually come down, you know, making Katara think that he is accepting the challenge. However, he is not initially. He is, you know, basically just thinks that he's above it and that she's beneath him. And, you know, basically just genuinely believing that because he is a man and because he is above this little girl who, you know, thinks that she can do stuff that he can do.
It's this fight that the necklace gets cut off, right?
It's during the fight.
Yeah.
But yeah, she goads him basically by water whipping him in the back of the head, and he basically does take the challenge. But as you said, he's not trying to hurt her. He's basically just proving that he can dance circles around her while also not actively harming her. But Katara is actually, I mean, yes, she is getting owned in this fight. And, she even says, because Sokka's like, you can't beat him. And Katara says, I don't care. I just want to teach him a lesson. She knows she's going to lose, but she also wants to prove to him that she is worth being taught, that she has aptitude, that even though she can't stand toe to toe with a master because he's a master, she still deserves his respect. And obviously she's the one getting hit with all the water, but you can see that she gets rather close with a lot of her attacks. And you can kind of start to see at least some looks from Paku. Never at this point looks of respect, but just like, well, I wasn't expecting that type of thing. And yes, at a certain point, the necklace does come free. And Katara basically she is drenched. She has been soaked with water, thrown in water pots, all this kind of stuff. And she is not going to stop. Until she either gets hurt or Paku just restrains her. So Paku, does restrain her in kind of like an ice prison type of thing, but she's still, trying to fight her way out of it. And Paku is just like, go home or whatever. And it's at this point that he spots the necklace. And this is when it is revealed that it was his necklace. He was the one betrothed to Kana. And, we kind of get the fact that, they were betrothed. But, Katara says, oh, she didn't want to marry, or she, it was it was a forced marriage. It was an arranged marriage. But, she wasn't interested. She didn't feel the same way. We don't necessarily know the inner workings of Gran-Gran's mind. We don't know if she just wasn't interested in Paku all because,
all of that will come out in the Legend of Gran-Gran.
Yeah, absolutely. Or as I will prefer to call it, Gran-Gran's Great Adventures. Yeah. So, we don't know if maybe she actually did like him, but she didn't like being forced to marry him, and also just didn't like this very restricted culture that she was in. So decided to kind of, spread her wing, because at the very least, while I do think
by Gran-Gran,
huh?
So he got rejected by Gran-Gran.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's what's most important here.
It does feel like he's experiencing that rejection since then too. Like you don't get the sense like she went on, she got married, she had kids.
Exactly.
Paku,
yeah. It seems because he calls her the love of his life.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like he moved on.
It's awkward if his wife is over there listening to him say that. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, that would be funny. But I just wrote down, I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Paku's an incel. No wonder he's so grumpy.
Now I want the comic beat of Paku saying, like, she's the love of my life. Then just like rack focus shift, where we get the woman in the background comes into focus, like, what?
What? Yeah. But yeah, so so yeah, we kind of leave the scene there, with Katara basically being, that's why she left, because she didn't want to, live with you guys' rules. It's kind of, messed up and backwards, and you're a jerk. But we do at this point kind of get the resolve to Sokka's side story, because he goes and sees Yue again, and Sokka's very confused because every time he goes around Yue, she seems interested, but she's also kind of resisting. And come to find out, she is also in an arranged marriage. And she's betrothed to someone else. And so yeah, she just feels like spending too much time with Sokka is kind of dangerous. And I think that's revealed actually a little bit before the reveal with the necklace. So we've got Gran-Gran, who ran away from the tribe because of an arranged marriage, and now Yue, who is the princess, is now in an arranged marriage, even though she is more interested in Sokka. So we're kind of done with that, except that at the very end of the episode, we get the tag, which is, Aang kind of, I will say we see Aang kind of doing some waterbending earlier on. And while he's got the basics of the movement, Paco is mentioning that you're not actually in tune with the water. You're not actually feeling it. So, even though we saw Aang really kind of, move along very quickly with the things that Katara was showing him, now that he's with an actual master, he is struggling a little bit. Which is kind of nice to see him kind of, he's got the basic idea, but he's not getting in the actual spirit of the thing, which is going to hurt him in his bending later on if he doesn't get to it. We see him kind of messing with a little bending, and then Katara runs in. Paku's all like, what is the meaning of this? And then he's like, you're late. Obviously they have now, they never make it clear if they've just made an exception for Katara, because I'm looking around at this at his class and it's all still boys and Katara. So I don't know if maybe they have opened it up now to girls, and there's just none of the right age at that time, or if he's going to work with them later, or if it's just for Katara.
My guess is that they're willing to open it up, but I mean, this is what's
chances are none of the girls are interested.
Exactly. This has just been their culture up till this point. You're not going to have a whole bunch of girls on day one to say like, yes, I do want to do that thing.
But I would get that maybe all of the girls would, because as you say, this is kind of the mentality that they were raised in. Yeah. But you can't tell me that there wasn't at least one girl that was like, oh, I wish I could learn fighting.
Could be their parents wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
Because the whole, I don't want you playing with the boys because the boys are going to be too rough. I heard that a lot.
Yeah. Maybe they're just, even if there is the one, she's just waiting back to see how Katara gets treated, by the other boy class, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even if Pac is willing to let her in, doesn't tell her how the classmates are going to treat her. So,
yeah. I mean, I will say as much as, it sucks that it might just be Katara and it's, they haven't actually necessarily moved forward. It's just kind of a concession for this one girl. That actually makes more sense for this society to take baby steps rather than to turn around their entire culture overnight. While that would be nice, it's not practical or, realistic.
Yeah.
So as much as I would like to say that, oh no, they've just changed their entire culture and they've realized that sexism is stupid. It probably is just they're making one exception. But one exception could open the door for more exceptions down the line. Exactly. And I mean, progress can be slow. But I will say I have completely forgotten to mention any of Zuko's side story going on here, partially because I forgot that it happened in this episode.
That's another one of the things that I always think happens in the next one.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically Zuko's whole storyline is that they are on the boat actually having music night, and Admiral Zhao comes on the boat and basically is like, I've basically been given permission by my best friend in the world, my secret daddy, Fire Lord Ozai. He gives me all the hugs I want, and he is letting me take all of your men to help me assault the Water Tribe, because he's following Aang, and he doesn't need Zuko's men. He can get men from anywhere. He's doing this to take Zuko out of the game.
Oh, sure. I mean, we see in the next episode, Zhao has like a battalion of what, flotilla or whatever, of like dozens of ships.
He doesn't need Zuko's boatload of soldiers.
Yes.
He is doing this to mess with Zuko.
This does call back to a discussion we had the other week of like, where did Zuko get his soldiers from? Because I think we kind of settled on they're paid privateers, or at least are loyal to Iroh to some extent.
Right.
But
which means that they are still connected to the Earth Nation. But they were probably, or sorry. I don't know why I said Earth Nation. It's Earth Kingdom anyway. But still connected to the Fire Nation. They're just there probably, like I said, as a favor to Iroh, or at least, the lieutenant brought his men as a favor to Iroh.
Yeah, so it may favor that definition, because if they were paid, I don't know how, how.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're not, as you said, privateers or, mercenaries or anything like that.
Yeah. Out of that. I suppose he could draft them back, but that doesn't seem to be what's happened. They've simply been ordered to be on the ship rather than Zuko's. So
but yeah, so they take Zuko's men, and of course Zhao decides to deliver this message personally, because he probably wants to see Zuko's face when he's like, I'm taking all your toys. They're all my toys now. Yay, more friends for Zhao.
Dad likes me best.
Yeah. But while he's in Zuko's quarters, he sees the blue spirit swords, and Zhao clocks the swords, and he mentions them, and Zuko gives a big react with the eyes. He's like, oh no, he knows. And Zhao's just like, I didn't know you knew how to use broadswords. And he's just like, I don't. They're decoration. They're old. Not very convincing. But Zhao brings up the blue spirit, mentions it to Iroh. Iroh's like, I don't think it's real. And Zhao's just like, oh no, it's real. So that we know, and Zuko knows that he knows, that thing. So
it was hard to tell in that moment if Zhao had completely put it together or just suspicion did. But yeah, we realized later.
It's a strong suspicion, because later on
suspicion is like, I'm going to say a few things to see how you react to it, and that will confirm my suspicion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, he leaves.
The evidence, the actual evidence available here is not super strong. It's like, haha, you have broadswords. Yeah. He also had broadswords.
Right.
But
I don't
think it's custom made. So like
right.
They're not unique. Somewhat, it's a skill you can be trained in. Other people do this. But
when you make a list of all the people that might want to take the Avatar away from Zhao.
Sure. Exactly.
That also knows how to use broadswords.
Yeah.
That list is kind of small.
The list is shorter. It was foolish of Zuko to take his secret identity's weapons and put them on the wall.
Put them on display. Of course, they are in his quarters. He probably never expected Zhao to be there.
I don't know why he would assume that, but it's
either way, Zhao takes his men. He apparently does make overtures to Iroh, but Iroh's like, no, I'm going to stay with my nephew. You don't need me, kind of thing. I mean, it's not a conversation, but you can assume that that's kind of the idea. We also see later on that Zhao is making friends with the pirates who we saw in an earlier episode, who did have a run-in with Zuko. And we don't know exactly what he is hiring them for, but we do know that he is hiring them. We see in a later scene that, obviously the ship is basically empty. Iroh is going to go for a walk in the mountains. And he asks Zuko if he wants to go with him. And Zuko's just like, no, I want to be by myself and pout for a little while. Because that's,
Zuko does like to pout.
Yes. And he's very good at it. He's a world champion pouter.
A lot of experience.
Yes. He is on the Olympic pouting team.
He's right up there with like Anakin and Luke Skywalker.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Top-notch pouters. So Zuko is now on the ship alone, and that Zhao knew that Zuko would want to take this pouting time, because we all know about Zuko's super special pouting time, and that he would be on the ship alone at some point. So the pirates have been hired basically to load the ship with blasting jelly and blow up the ship. And we see Zuko recognize that the pirates are there because he sees the lizard bird. Right at the last minute, we see the ship explode, bombs going off, all this kind of stuff. And we see Iroh's reaction, and it looks like they killed Zuko. Zuko's gone. And we believed it for maybe half a second before we're like, no, they didn't kill Zuko. Unless any of us thought that, Zhao was now going to be the full-time villain. Did anybody?
I never once.
No.
Zuko's up on the deck of the ship and is clearly blown off of it. Like, that reads as he survived that explosion. Yeah. If the show wanted to kill him, he'd be in his quarters and like get blown up where there are no windows or doors.
Yeah, where he didn't have time to realize.
If you don't see the body, it's not dead.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
And even then, it still might not be dead.
We will return to that next episode. I have a thought of that. Yeah.
Well, later on in this storyline, basically, Iroh has agreed to work with Zhao now that, his nephew is no longer in the picture. And, Zhao is just kind of testing. He's like, oh, so do you know who did it? And he's like, yes, I do. Those pirates. And of course, Zhao's just like, whoo, but we then see, sorry, not Zhao. But Iroh go up to a random soldier and start talking to him. The soldier lifts up his mask.
Takes it down, actually.
Wouldn't you know? Huh? Oh, he takes it off. Off. Yeah. And wouldn't you know? Zuko! He survived.
I really
No
really wish that scene. It had just remained on us. Like, just keep a tight focus on the eyes. You can see the scar through the eye hole, and just let us recognize Zuko's voice through it. I kind of hate it. It's like Zuko's going to stand there. He's undercover, but he's going to take his mask off in the hallway of the ship where he's undercover to just stand there and chat, and then put it back.
I mean, if he talked under the mask, then he'd be talking like this.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He doesn't have a Darth Vader respirator. He doesn't have like one of those voice changes. He'd just be talking like this.
We have seen
And-
no indication in this show that their vocals are, their voices are muffled when they're in those things.
They're behind the mask.
He's standing next to. I'm pretty sure for the opening line or two, he's under the mask and we can hear him fine.
Either way.
Yes.
But yeah, come to find out, this is a plan of Zuko's that at least I got the idea that this was Zuko's plan. Iroh's just helping him out. I believe that is the only reason Iroh is on this ship, is to help out Zuko.
Yeah.
Because he don't give a shit about Zhao. But they have a plan for, and they even say, we'll get you into the Northern Water Tribe, and then you can go after the Avatar.
It's not purely to help Zuko. I think there is at least some element he's just there to keep tabs on Zhao. Because after all, in the next episode, he is the one who convinces Zhao. It's like, don't you think you might want to stop the seas, and like the seas here, just like nighttime? And that's not helping Zuko in a particular way. That's just Iroh being a decent human being.
Well, and I mean, it's also, we'll discuss it when we get there, but he specifically says his military advisor, because he knows, as we all do, that Zhao has no control.
Yeah.
Because Zhao just wants love and hugs, and he'll do whatever it takes to get them. But yeah, that is really the episode.
Pretty hugged pretty hard he does get hugged pretty hard in the finale.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get there. But is there anything else about this episode specifically that you guys wanted to talk about before we go into segments?
I do just want to bring one thing up about Master Paku. I know we've said enough awful things about him, but I'm going to continue because
they're all true. So
this is really what makes Master Paku the worst, and it's sexism aside. Let's throw that out the window. Doesn't really matter who he is. He's training. He's the type that will just be he's the type of teacher that will be like a total ass to you until you prove yourself worthy or something. And it's like, no, I'm here to learn. And then it's like, well, I don't want to teach you until, you're okay. Well, how the heck am I supposed to learn anything? I hate teachers like that.
You do get the vibe that he's a little J.K. Simmons from Whiplash.
I haven't seen Whiplash. So I don't know anything
okay.
about it. But I know who J.K. Simmons is.
Loren, you get the reference.
I haven't seen the movie, but I'm familiar with the character you're talking about.
Sure. Yeah. Basically, his way of teaching is nothing's good enough.
Yeah, if you do that at me, after a while, I'm like, okay, well, if it's not good enough, I don't know why I'm bothering, so bye. And then their idea is like, well, if they're willing to take all my abuse, then maybe they're worthy. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, my dude. So yeah, just had to bring that up.
Yeah. I will say there is one last thing that I forgot, because when in one of their late night rendezvous, Sokka brings Yue a little token of his own. He doesn't have a betrothal necklace, but he brings her this thing, and he's like, I made it myself. And he shows it to her, and she's like, oh, a bear. And he goes, no, it's a fish. And I'm like, Sokka, in this world, you could have just been like, oh, actually, it's a fish bear.
That's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, the amazing fish bear.
It's a grizzly shark. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah. Well, if that is all, then we can go ahead and move on to our segments. We are going to start, of course, with our My Cabbages moment.
My cabbages!
Which is, of course, the point in the episode where we discuss our favorite or most interesting moment, scene in the episode. And let's see. I think, Loren, we're going to start with you, sir. What is your My Cabbages moment?
I don't know. I suppose I'd just go with the almost sort of silent scenic tour we had of the Northern Tribe city when we first got there. They're just, like you said, described as kind of Venetian. They're just coasting down the riverways there.
The layout of this city, I've never it's one of those times that I really want to visit a fictional city.
Yeah.
If it wasn't so cold, I would want to go there.
Exactly.
Oh, I'd be fine with it.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would die.
Venice made out of ice? Yes, please.
I would die.
That's very nice.
Yes. Very good. All right. Amanda.
Sokka asking Yue to do an activity together. Just so cheesy and so cute, and I love it.
Yeah. All right. I am going to say that mine is Katara's not sorry moment, because it's just, I mean, it is deserved by every single person in that room. I wish she had challenged the chief too, because they're all a bunch of misogynistic assholes and they all deserve a dressing down in that moment. And I was there for it. I was happy. I was like, yay, Katara. Good job. But yeah. All right. Well, now it is time for the Mako Award, which is the award that we give to our favorite or most interesting character for the episode. So, Amanda, starting with you this time, who gets your Mako Award?
I would say Yue, but I'm going to save that one for later. So I'm going to say Katara, because she showed that she is, normally she's like whiny, everything hope. Oh my gosh. She showed she's a badass.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this was one of those, I mean, yes, it's an instance of Katara making another impassioned speech, but I was totally behind this one, and I'm just like, you go, girl.
This is one of those instances where Katara it up is like, oh, okay.
She really Katara'd that one in a good way.
Yeah.
All right. Loren.
I guess Master Paka. He's, you know, an interesting sort of, you know, I don't want to say well-rounded, but
yeah.
Exactly. But you know,
he's an interesting character, to see him interact, because we haven't had kind of an antagonist that's supposed to be on their side before.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what's interesting about him is like he's not a rival, he's not an enemy, he's not trying to hurt him, but like he's not their friend at the same time. He's
right.
He's trying to help them, but he's not likable.
Yeah,
and that those kind of dynamics are interesting.
Yeah. Well, I am going to go right along with Amanda, and I am also going to choose Katara as for my Mako Award. She just, I mean, this is one of the best we have episodes that we have seen for Katara, because, you know, she gets to stand up for herself and she gets to make a good impassioned speech. And I am just 100% behind Katara the whole way in this episode. And, you know, I'm glad that she gets to learn waterbending from Master Poophead, as Aang calls him. But yeah. All right. Well, then it is time to rate the episode on the Avatar State Meter. We can rank the episode from 1 to 5. 1 being the worst, could deal the show a fatal blow. 5 being the best, the show at full power. So Amanda, where would you rank this episode?
I'm going to give this one a 4.
All right. Good solid rating there. All right. Loren.
I'll give it a 3.5. It's fine. It's good. You know, to some extent, I feel like not an awful lot happens because it is basically just setting up the next 2-parter. Yep. But yeah, a pleasant enough half hour.
All right. I am also going to give this a 4. I think that it is a strong episode. Obviously, we've had stronger and probably will have stronger later on. But I feel like, especially for the first episode of them finally arriving in the, in the Water Tribe, finally, Aang has come to the Water Tribe. Sorry. But yeah, I think that it is a good episode to kind of set up that and also set up, you know, what is going to be the 2-part finale. And, you know, it gives us some good moments from all of our characters. There really wasn't a storyline here that I was like, oh, I don't need that. Oh, this is a silly moment or anything like that. I felt like everything was, even if something wasn't necessarily my favorite, I thought everything was good, you know? But yeah, so 4 for me. All right. Well, then it is time for the question, the most important question, the question that we are all dying to know the answer to, and that is this. Loren, is this your new favorite show?
Still not my new favorite show. No.
No, but has this episode done much to rise the show in your estimation?
I mean, this episode by itself, I mean, spoilers, not so much, but between this and the latter 2 episodes that we'll deal with next,
Sure.
obviously,
we'll get
wrap up the arc of the first season.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that more then. But yeah, at least we're seeing the end game here for the first third of the saga.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. All right. Well, then it is now time to let everyone know how to get in contact with us. You can, of course, contact me on Twitter and Instagram at The Flying Cow Pod. You can email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Do not forget to check out all of the shows that we have going on, as well as check out the Patreon, patreon.com/theflyingcow. Lots of great stuff over there. Check that out. Amanda, I'm going to you. What you got going on?
Well, you can find me hosting Zelda Weekly on Zelda Universe TV on YouTube. I'm also going to be, this may air actually after the fact, but I'm also going to be hosting like 3 panels at DreamHack next weekend. So on like the 16th and 17th.
Yeah,
like
this will air way after that. Like
it's way after that because I don't know what date we're on. But yeah, so after the fact, hey, I'm at DreamHack. So hopefully
you were there. Amanda was there.
I was at DreamHack. There we go.
Yeah. All right, Loren.
You can find me on Twitter at Loren Collins. If you're local to the Atlanta area and enjoy theater, I just got cast in Act 3 Productions version of Lend Me a Tenor. That's going to be in March.
What are you playing? I love that show.
I'm playing the bellhop.
Best role.
So, yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. So, no, looking forward to that. My first production with that company. So,
all right. All right. Well, we will, of course, be back next time talking about the Season 1, Book 1 finale, The Siege of the North, Parts 1 and 2. So make sure to check that out. But until that time, moo.
Mm.